Gina Pomponi, President and COO of Bluewater Media. And today I have with me Josh McDaniel.
It's great to be here. I feel like we have these talks like once a month during the off season, and I feel like during AEP it's daily
Every
or
day.
sometimes hourly.
Sometime
we're talking
hourly,
through
yeah.
this. So
depending upon what's going on.
It's great to be here and share with everybody else what we talk about on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Yeah, Medicarians, and it's interesting. It's not just Medicare marketers, ACA. I've seen folks for annuities, life insurance. Gosh, I know myself, 36 years, been doing this. I would say cut my teeth on insurance, life insurance, and have done, more senior, major med, life, annuities, you name it. And Josh, I think you produce more.
Yeah,
I think you produce more insurance spots in a year than anyone I know.
Yeah, I think we're doing around 200 insurance spots a year right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's not including all the digital ads that we do. That's just our linear TV program. So we definitely are very busy, and it's something I really love to do. It's kind of a passion. When I got into it, I was younger and kind of thought, well, I don't know that this is right for me, but within like a year or two, I saw how great the product is and the opportunity really to share that with the senior market and get them that good product and let them know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's really taken off, and it's kind of something I love now.
And it's a great thing, we talk about AEP, it's the fastest 10 weeks of your life, right?
Yeah.
So I know myself, Bluewater is the first place where I've ever been, and having been there for 10 years now, where I have the resources, I have the producers there, I have down the hallway, right? Editors, animators, the 38,000 square foot facility, and we can be quick and we can be nimble, and there's no, fastest 10 weeks of your life, right? What is it, 53 days long?
Yeah.
So being able to, I think most marketers are like, well, we can only test in the first 2 weeks before you can write policies, and then, whatever is the best out of what you test, you just got to lock it and load, and that's, that's certainly not what we do.
Right, and and the trends in those 2 weeks are so much different than when it actually opens up where you can enroll. So you really need that data right there on the spot when it opens up, because you don't have time to be wrong.
Right.
You have to be right. And then that's the great thing about being at Bluewater is, we're talking all the time. So you've got the data, you've got the analytics, and you're coming to me, you're telling me what's going on. And so, if there's a slight miss, we can make adjustments and we can make them quickly. Or even if it's winning, but we say, hey, we can optimize this.
Sure.
We can optimize on the fly. And so it's great being in the same building and having that relationship that we have.
Yeah, and the converged, the analytics is a very good point you make, because having that dashboard and the online reporting is not only beneficial to our clients, but our internal team benefits from it significantly. So you don't actually have to wait to walk into my office in the morning, although you can.
Yeah.
You can pull it up that night from home. You can do it in the morning before you leave. It's available to all of us all the time. It makes me think of, I want to say it was 2 years ago, we had a very large AEP campaign running, and the creative that wasn't working that they had brought to us. And so I ran into your office, I don't know, it might have been a Monday, and we got a new creative written and done, and I think we got it on the air in a week.
It was on the air in a week, and that was a really tough year too, because that was right after COVID, and the conversion rates for everybody across the board was down due to the fact that people could enroll all year long with the special circumstances. And so I remember you coming to me, we looked at the data and wrote and shot whole new creative and had it on the air in a week, and significantly improved the cost per call and cost per lead.
Right, and that's one of the benefits of the converged agency model, right? And something that, again, you just can't do anywhere else, right?
And that's what's exciting, whenever we're writing creative and producing creative, the idea is to make a winner. We all want to win. We want to win for our clients. We want to win for ourselves. It's a little bit of a competitive game.
That's why you take somebody who swings at the bat, right? You're not going to just put one creative out there.
Exactly. And so having that ability to to see the visibility of what you guys are doing on your side,
Yeah.
and then make those adjustments. It's great for us. There's nothing worse than when we make creative and then it goes someplace else and we never hear, what's happening with it, because we want to make those adjustments. We want to be successful. We want you to be successful.
Right. Not just being a television agency, having full media and strategy capabilities with television, digital, even web dev, and digital content. Because it's crazy. Although seniors, television's still very, 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 and linear television still very, very important for the senior market, right?
Well, and it's great that you bring that up, because we think about the market, and so much of marketing is changing and everything is going to a digital platform. But Medicare insurance, life insurance, those things are still really important to that senior market, which still really relies on linear TV.
Yeah.
I think I saw somewhere like 80% of linear TV is watched by people 55 and over, and then once you get into prime time, that changes to 60 plus.
It just occurred to me that I actually fall into what I've always called the senior demographic.
I still got a couple
That's
years.
just wrong.
So,
yeah, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
No, but you're right, and that linear television is lifting, top of funnel, lifting everything else, because they are very large Facebook users, right?
Yeah.
Direct mail. Direct mail was a staple back when I started in the business, and very, very important. At one point, your mailbox was so crowded, and junk mail. But that shifted so significantly. People started advertising more to your email. Now you walk out to your mailbox and it's empty. Now, I don't know about you, but I know my father, he waits for the mailman.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he knows his name. He goes out and greets him, right? There's only a few pieces in there. So direct mail has become critical. But our ability now to utilize direct mail with other models, for example, CTV, right? You might think, well, seniors aren't using OTT, they're not using CTV, but they are.
Yeah.
Fast channels are growing significantly. They're using the fast channels because the fast channels are free, they're ad supported, right?
Yeah.
So we're able to hit them because we can target them by audience, right? We can hit that. And better yet, the great thing that you and I had been talking about, a few weeks ago, because as you said, it's getting closer, right? We're going to talk more, is now with the CMS changes, right? The CMS changes that it's just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And soon you're going to see TV commercials where people are standing up there and say, Medicare's changing.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Well,
or call us. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's really important is understanding those changes and making sure, because it's such a process. When you're trying to get something on the air and you're scripting it and you've got a short period of time and you're waiting on CMS, for 45 days to review it. And
then you make one little change and then they get another 45 days.
Another 45 days.
Yeah.
And that's one thing where, in the marketing world, we kind of found some loopholes where we were working with communications.
Last year.
Yeah, communications projects. And
marketing. Marketing script.
Yeah. And so with the changes now, they're tightening up some of those loopholes, and it's going to make it even tougher, because those communication scripts are going to have to go through CMS too. And
I get it. Yeah. They're trying to protect seniors, but at the same time, it's kind of a fine balance. And seniors are confused.
Yeah.
I mean, your parents are always just using everyone. You can use their own parents as a kind of a tiny focus group.
Right.
But they're getting hit in different directions. They don't know. They want to understand who can help them.
Exactly.
But now they watch commercials and it can't say anything. Right.
Yeah. So it's even less information.
Yeah.
Right. And
I think you still need that linear presence, right?
Yeah.
You need it, right, for that over the top.
Right.
But CTV is going to become wildly important.
Yeah.
Because they're watching.
I agree.
And now we can hit them, right, by zip code targeting.
I think CTV is the secret weapon.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about it, and linear TV is still important, right? It's in this demographic, it's more important than probably any other demographic that we work with.
Yeah.
Just because they're a little bit slower to give up on those network news stations that they love and things like that. But they're making
Texas
the transition.
Walker Ranger.
Right. They're making the transition as well. And I saw that I think 90% of consumers that have CTV are still using paid ads, because they want that connected TV, but it's like, am I going to pay that extra couple bucks a month
well,
to
think
get
about it.
ads?
Many seniors are on fixed incomes.
Yeah.
So as they're using it, that's why the fast channels, which are ad supported but don't cost them anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I think that's a secret weapon to get in there. Mm-hmm. And also, like you said, you can target the demographics, right? You can get it in the households that you want. You've got all that data. And so, on linear TV, you know the marketing side of it as far as media better than I do. And you can target it, but not quite pinpoint accuracy like what you can with CTV.
Right, and that really, with, tying that kind of together, right, because of all the changes with CMS and not being able to say, you can get free premiums, you can get silver sneakers, you can get prescription plans. You can't put that out because if it's not available to everyone, you can't say it. But now we can actually target by zip code and create donut spots or modular spots, as you would call them. Tell me a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, and it's great that you brought that up because with that, like you said, now when we're advertising on a national level, it's so limited to what you can say. I remember years ago, and it was always free, right?
Yeah.
And you just pummeled them with benefits.
Yeah.
And now
everything that was available, we put it out there.
Right. If it was available to one person in Arkansas,
yep. we
everybody in the
had
world seeing
television.
it, right? And it's good that they've protected the seniors a little bit away from that. And what that has done is twofold, really. One, now you've got a better chance for your cost per conversion to go up, right? But maybe a smaller funnel of people calling. But to your point, where we can target with the digital advertising, we know specifically where it's going, so we can write alts for these spots, and we can, like you said, have a donut spot where the creative's the same, but then we can plug and play different benefits to fit different markets, and we can be more specific, and we can have a more informed viewer when they call.
Yeah, and I really love that. That strategy is amazing, because not only that, those folks, when they respond, it's going to come back to the site, you're going to get a pixel, and you're going to be able to programmatically hit them with direct mail again, number one. Number two, the convert stream system that is a proprietary tool of Bluewater is also available, that creates a complete kind of ecosystem. Yeah. So when we run, no matter where they go next, we can retarget them. So you're getting that frequency. And that together, because a lot of advertisers are worried, CTV doesn't work for the senior market. It only works if you do it right.
Right.
Okay. So having that creative strategy, having that how you're going to prospect them, and how you're going to be able to retarget them, all of that tied together, and looking at it that way is cost effective. Right. It's going to generate strong leads. It's allowing you, as you said, to actually advertise the proper benefits to those folks that are eligible. Yeah. But on top of that, you still need that overriding message. You can't forget that is giving everything that lift. It's still the tide that raises all ships.
Right. Well, and it's how many times do they have to hear this message before they actually pick up the phone and make the call, or they go online and do that research, Right. And so that repetitiveness and getting it in their house and getting in front of them. If you've got if you've only got one lane to get it there, it's going to be harder. But if you got, 4 or 5 lanes coming together,
right,
it's easier to get that message.
And with all of that, because it really is omni-channel, right? You've got to be everywhere. So I'll bring it back to analytics, which is so very important. Your ability to read all of that and understand what's coming from direct mail, what's coming from linear, what's coming from your prospecting, CTV, Facebook, how that's all coming together is so very important, because if you don't understand what's driving the leads, you can't optimize.
Right.
So in order to, as I say, to turn the knobs, you've got to have a very strong media mix modeling as well as a strong attribution. And those are all things that we have proprietary systems to do at Bluewater.
Oh, so, yeah. I know some of the data analytics team kind of gets giddy about it when they come talk to me. They get so excited about it. So, and it's always nice to have that feedback so we can optimize. And one thing you mentioned too is like the change from how everything used to be so much direct mail to now there was so much on linear TV. I know in the last few years it's been such a convoluted market. It's like, how do you cut through the noise? Right? Yeah. And so that's where creative comes in, and that's where you have to have that strong, disruptive creative.
I agree.
In order to get people to pay attention, because they can only hear the same message so many times. So what's the one that makes them actually look towards the TV, perk up their ears and listen? And so that's why it's so important to have that disruptive creative. But it can't just be disruptive. You also have to carry it, and it has to have a good call to action, right? It's got to drive people to take action. So the first tough goal is, hey, pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is now take the action and give us a call.
Yeah,
right?
anything to get their attention, even if it's like a bang on a pipe or
Yeah, and that's why it's so important, like I said, to be able to break through that. I do think one thing that we have an advantage of this year is I think this is a kind of a volatile year for Medicare. Anytime that you have a big election, then Medicare becomes the focus, and
hasn't ever been this big.
Yeah, and so everybody's talking about it right now, and seniors, they're curious. They may even be a little bit scared of what's going to happen.
I think you're right. I think they're scared with everything that's going on. And I mean, Trump has done right, wrong, and different. I'm not here to judge politically. So much in the first 60, 70 to however long it's been of his thing. And seniors are like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Because this is something that the government is changing, CMS. So they don't know. They're worried. How many seniors have you heard say, is he going to take my Medicare away? Is he going to take my benefits away? Is he going to? They don't know.
Exactly. And I think that concern makes them more open to listen.
Yeah.
Right? Where in years past they may have just been like, oh, another Medicare commercial.
Yeah.
Flipped a channel, or I'm going to go get a drink. Now they're curious. Are my benefits going to decrease? Are my costs going to go up? They want to know these things, and so this is a great year to take advantage of linear TV and digital to pinpoint these seniors and inform them, right?
Yeah.
Inform them of the changes, and also to open up and say, hey, we know you're concerned. Call us, we can help, we can give you all the details. And so I think this is a great year for Medicare and Medicare Advantage.
Response should be much stronger because they really want to know what's going on.
Right, that we can take advantage of that, that everybody's paying attention, right? And they can move towards that. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, I'm hearing changes in my head all across the TV.
Yeah.
So.
Could you imagine how much that would cost to David Bowie?
Yeah, we could do it.
We could do it.
We can make it happen.
Now, don't be giving away. People are going to see this. Don't you be giving away creative concepts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another topic of insurance for seniors that's really strong is life insurance, and that call it senior final expense, call it whatever. But that's another huge one. And the interesting thing with that one is it kind of comes on the heels of AEP because that's always been strongest in first quarter, first followed by third quarter. So for the senior marketer, you're always kind of moving.
Yeah. It's like you take this deep sigh of relief after an annual enrollment period, and it's like,
it's on 12/8. Everybody gets up. They're like, I'm taking a few days off. Like the entire industry takes a week off starting on 12/8.
And then it's like, we've got to get our life insurance stuff on TV. And one thing that's really interesting that we've just kind of found out with some of the life insurance spots we've been doing a lot of A/B testing, and we found that creative really drives the response mechanism. And so when we're doing these lifestyle creatives, we've found that the announcer portion, when we change it, it doesn't change anything about the response rate. But when we change that lifestyle vignette on the front end, it totally fluctuates the response rate. And so we've done a lot of the testing with that lately to see.
Well, you know what I always say about that
Here
one.
it comes.
And I'll tell you, the first campaign I ever worked on, 1989, was National Liberty Vets Life. Now, it was a term life with an affinity of veterans, right? And I'll tell you what, as long as there was a couple or two old ladies sitting at a kitchen table, right? Nothing could beat it.
Yeah, got to have that cup of coffee on the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was something about the kitchen or something about the two people together, because the only thing that ever did better was a spot called Good News. And I'm sure somebody somewhere, some marketer somewhere watching this is going to be like, I remember that, where the mailman came up and the old guy went out to greet him at the mailbox because, again, old people so excited about when the mailman comes. I swear to God, my dad knows his mailman name. He knows the name of the truck driver, the trash truck. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, as you know, I was a letter carrier for a long
time. So
And so I can speak to that firsthand, that the people on your route, they look forward to seeing you, especially the senior market. They knew my name. They look forward to me being there every day.
So that's a relatable thing that they see, right, on creative, because you're now making the creative hook something that's relatable.
Exactly.
That's why, that's why testimonials are put into creatives, is it allows the individual to relate, right, to somebody that's just like them.
Yeah. And that's, testimonials are so important because they're real life stories. And and people can see through that, right? They can relate to that, and they can relate to the emotion that's there. But I will say that mailbox creative, even from 1989 to 2025, is still working.
That's freaking insane.
Yeah, we just recently did a Medicare spot with two neighbors meeting at the mailbox and having that mailbox conversation. So as much as things change, things still do stay the same.
It works for life. It works for senior health.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I know that we've done, quite a few things with celebrities.
Yeah.
And I know from the media side and the strategy side that you get a boost in performance from celebrity. It could be 20 to 40%. And that really is for everything, but it does carry across to insurance, life and health.
Oh yeah, we had a very successful campaign for several years with Bill Engvall and Health Markets, and he was a celebrity, but he was so relatable. I think that's what hit with the senior market, and even when he was on set, like everything he tells you, it's like you just want to believe it because he's just such a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah, and he really was a nice guy. I got to talk to him backstage some. But what's the process for that when picking out? I know from the other side that it does work well, and you guys always seem to get to the right celebrity. Well, what is that?
Well, we take a lot of things into consideration when we're trying to pick celebrity talent, right? One thing we'll look at is demographics, of course, and so we'll look what celebrities does this demographic relate to, and sometimes we'll send out surveys and things like that to kind of get ideas, and then we start vetting the process, right? And we'll come up with, a large list of celebrities that we think we could work with, and then we'll also start thinking creative at the process. Same process, we might not have a celebrity locked down, but we'll start thinking of creative. Okay,
what works?
For Dolly Parton, this would work. For Bill Engvall, this would work. They're two different,
Dolly
completely
Parton,
different
that would be a good one.
That would be a great one.
Yeah.
And so we've actually got some creatives that we could use for her, top of the mind, and so. Once we start working that, then we start working with a celebrity broker, and they start reaching out, and we have negotiations and see if they're even interested in doing, Medicare. Some of them are, some of them aren't. And then once we lock in that celebrity, then that's when we really pinpoint the creatives, and we try to pinpoint it for the message that they would give rather than just a generic host or a creative.
Sure.
And
I got Dolly Parton stuck in my head now because I'm Rolodexing my brain through most of the insurance commercial, the hundreds of different ones that we've worked on and know. And it mostly in that senior market, folks will pick a man.
Yeah.
And I think, as you were talking earlier about, it's important to be disruptive and be different so you can stand out from all of the, it's such a crowded category, both life and health. I think a female could be a good disruptor like that.
And it's really funny that you mentioned that because last year we brought in a female host and a male host, and we shot several creatives, and we did them both, and we A/B tested, and actually the female host did better on not every creative, but most of the creatives. In fact, our winning creative was with the female host, and like you said, it's just kind of breaking through because you see so many that are the same. So how do you change that voice, right?
Sure, and I know we've seen where we've done the female, the male, or them together to test that as well, because it really is what does resonate. And although we do so much research, we always do a lot of research. We all have, you don't want to know how many years of experience is sitting up at this desk here, but even though you do that, as soon as the first spot runs, right? Yeah. And we've got to look. It's like America has to vote.
Oh, yeah.
And we're tracking every spot, every airing, every lead, every call, what happens to that call, all the way through to policy, all the way through to, we sold them health, then we sold, 20% of them dental, and this many percent of them vision program. So it all ties back, and it's very important to what originally generated that lead,
right?
To understanding how strong that media is. Again, back to the media mix modeling, but taking that all the way through to policies and what that individual actually bought.
Yeah.
To understand what's the best and where to put your marketing dollars.
Yeah. And like you said, even though I might write it and think this is the greatest creative ever written and this is going to be so good.
Yeah.
Like October 17th, I'm antsy. I'm ready for the results. I figure by then you got 2 days of results. I should know something, and I'm always waiting for that email or that
And you never know. Sometimes 2 days you see wow, pop, because you are spending quite a bit of money, especially in AEP, and we'll see and be able to make those changes. But I might say, whoa, okay, it's only been 2 days.
Yeah.
Give me 3 days, because generally speaking, day 3, I'm trying to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, trying to make a decision, and you generally can. And when you're putting a test plan together for these, you're making sure that you've put enough media in those first 3 days, and you're putting stations on that are what I call barometer test stations, and they're going to give you that read to know that you can make that quick decision.
Well, and
right?
you have to act fast.
Yeah.
You have to act fast. There's just no, like I said, there's no time for failure when you've got such a small window. You have to be able to be mobile and optimize.
Absolutely. And with Medicare advertising, as with Life and many other lead generation campaigns, Monday through Wednesday is your absolute strongest time for response. That doesn't mean you don't run 7 days a week. That doesn't mean you're not running, 24/7. But it does mean that you have to strategically plan those schedules, adding extra overlays of Monday through Wednesday on the key stations, especially on those key stations,
Right.
So many things have changed with the media marketplace, and some stations have actually said, oh, we're going to have special rates for Medicare. Oh, you've got to lock this in. Oh, you've got to do that. So knowing what stations to lock in, knowing that, I don't have to lock in this station for the entire 10 weeks, but it's important to add in week 3, or it's important to start with and then increase it to week 3. It's almost a puzzle. Understanding it.
It's always fascinating to me to see you guys put that plan together.
How it ramps is a very specific flighting to it, and I gotta say it really ties into the creative, because from an urgency standpoint, we've got that down to a science as well. Starting with the urgency of there's only weeks left, because AEP is weeks. It's 9.5, 10 weeks. It's 53 days, whatever it is. And then right after Thanksgiving, there's a specific day in and around Thanksgiving where we switch to there's only weeks or days left. Yeah. And then what's the last one? It's like, this is the last week. You gotta.
Like, or we'll even say like, the annual enrollment period is ending Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So that, it gives them a specific day that they know.
So it increases that sense of urgency. And you'll see the response pop up too. So that's a combination of, they know it's ending.
Right.
We're reminding them that it's ending, so we're creating that urgency so the response comes in.
Yeah, and having the ability to do that's super important, right? To be able to just keep leveling up a little bit and dialing that urgency in.
But it's so important to tie it together with the media. So if we didn't, if we weren't doing that together, I often wonder, I don't wonder, I know, because 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was somewhere where I wasn't tied to a creative house.
Yeah.
And it was much harder.
Right.
Because when I wanted to change and I needed something, I'd say, wow, this creative's not working, or I need this. I'd have to tell the client.
Yeah.
Who would have to say, okay, I understand. I have to write it up, tell the client. They understand. They would have to then explain it to their creative production facility and then get charged more money. That's a good point. Yeah. And then figure that out, come back to by that time with AEP, it's done. You can't do it. But with any program, such a nuisance. So with us, it's the back and forth. We know it ahead of time. We're not gonna.
And having that great relationship and that converged space, it takes away the blame game. Right?
It does.
How many times do you see
That's a very good point.
A creative not working and the media team saying, well, it's just bad creative, and you go to the production house and they're saying, oh no, this is great creative, it's just bad media buying, and so you don't have that when it's in-house.
No.
It's like, okay.
We both jump into action and we're like, what do we do?
Yeah, what do we do to make it work?
Right.
And like I said, because of us having that relationship, there's no animosity, it's a togetherness, it's a team building thing, and we're working forward to make sure it's winning.
Yeah, and it really is collaborative, because the production team, because of our dashboard analytics and everything is like that. Everybody has access to everything right at their fingertips. And again, you can walk down the hallway and come into my office and vice versa. It's pretty great. I can go sit on a shoot.
Yeah, that brings me to talking about collaborative. The spot that we wrote together, it's like. With your years of experience and everything you've seen in the market, there's no better resource.
Yeah.
And so, when we're writing, it's like, Gina, what ideas do you have?
Yeah.
And so, like I said, we collaborated on a spot this past fall that's working great. And so
That's crazy.
It's great to have just that much experience in the building,
Yeah.
and be able to bounce off of each other and make
Right, because
make
everybody
wins.
kind of comes at it a different way, looks at it from a different angle,
Yeah.
right? And we're all different. We are all different demographics as well, different ages, different,
Yeah.
So it's nice to have 110 friends in the building to
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
bounce things off of.
Well, that's the last writer's room. We even
Yeah.
invited editors in,
Yeah.
because they've been editing this stuff for years. So they've seen, they've seen every idea under the sun, and
Sure.
they've seen it from a different angle than what we see it. They see it from the backside, we're seeing
Right,
it from
and
the front
anything
end.
can spark your brain,
Yeah.
right? And I know we have a lot of AI tools to help with brainstorming. We have a lot of AI tools that help in post,
Yeah.
and things that have made us much more nimble. We have Hispanic editors on staff, but we can also. That's also one of the AI tools we have, right?
Right, yeah. And that's
To help
the
that
thing is
along.
the fact that we can do something really in any language
Yeah.
at all now, with the help of AI. We've been doing English and Spanish for a long time, with using Spanish editors and Spanish producers and trans creators of the scripts. But now with AI technology,
Yeah.
we can actually shoot it one time in English and then use AI to put it in any language that we want. And we've actually had some success with that with some of our other direct response campaigns,
Yeah.
in like German and
Japanese.
yeah,
I know it's,
yeah,
it's like
uh,
150 languages
I-
or something,
we-
right?
I think the last
did
one we did was
Japan
South
for-
Korean.
Oh, South
Yeah, we
Korean.
did South Korean. We've done German, I believe, Japanese. So, and it makes it really affordable too.
Right.
Because we shoot, it's one-time production costs, and then a little bit of editing, and here we've got a spot in 20 different languages. Or
Right.
You name it, however many languages you want. Yeah.
But I think, and that's amazing, but I mean, for Medicare specifically, I think it's wonderful that you actually have on staff,
Yeah.
people from different, Venezuela, Colombia, so, because there are cultural things, right? You want to make
Yeah.
sure that don't happen. I remember, like in college in your advertising book, everybody's heard about what Nova did. Remember
Yeah.
the Nova car when they
Yeah.
tried to launch it in I guess Mexico or
Yeah.
something? And Nova means no go
No-go,
in Spanish.
yeah.
So you're not going to sell a car that's called a Nova,
Right.
and
Well, and like
so
you
not
said,
running into those kind of problems.
Yeah, and having the different backgrounds, like you said, that allows us to be neutral, right? We
Yeah.
always want to, like when we're doing something in Spanish, we want to use neutral Spanish so that it relates to everybody, right? And it's not something that's kind of esoteric where,
Right.
one
Or
culture
Castilian,
gets it
yeah.
and it limits your funnel, right? We want to open it up and produce the biggest funnel and biggest net we can.
Sure. But I guess if if we're doing targeted, we could do it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is going to be
Absolutely. Yeah. When you talk about more your digital
Miami
campaigns.
is more, Cuban, that kind of
digital
thing.
campaigns and your OTT. Yeah, we can pinpoint that if we know we're going to be in Miami and it's primarily a Cuban population that
Yep.
going to be. We can pinpoint for that. We can pinpoint for Venezuelan or Mexican or wherever it's at. We can look at the demographics and make it work for them.
Yeah. One of the great things that we launched this year at Bluewater was the strategy team.
Yeah.
And
That's been really exciting.
Yeah.
Is having the brand strategists on board that they're here for the sole purpose of growing your brand.
Yep.
And so that strategy is always in mind, and it really works from top to bottom. Everybody on the team has that brand strategy in mind, and we're all working towards those same goals, right?
Yeah.
And whatever the goal may be for your company, whether it's we want to make as much money as possible, or we want to try to be acquired by a larger
Right.
agency or whatever. We know that strategy going into it. We know the brand voice, and that relates all the way from that brand strategist at the top, to the directors and the producers, to even the DPs, as far as knowing what kind of look this
Yeah.
brand goes for. Is this kind of a moody spot, darker lit, or is it bright and happy? And they get fully immersed in the brand, the same as the producers do and the
Yeah.
directors. And so it's great to have that and team up with the media team, and all work together for that
You
brand
make a
movement.
great point. As an agency, because we're fully converged, and we don't consider, we're not a media buying company. We're not we just produce commercials. We're direct marketers, and we do think strategically, and we are strategy led, strategy driven. This is just kind of taking, you and I, very strategic. Everybody thinks very strategically. this team is focused only on strategy. So they're not, you're very strategic, but you also, run the producers, you're producing commercials. They are starting, at your point, right when the brand comes in, even in the sales process, developing that initial strategy, and then staying with that business, because a strategy, just like anything else in direct marketing, is not a set it and forget it. Right.
Exactly.
So they're staying with it and continuing to evolve the strategy, and collaborate with all the teams. They're in they're going to be on your shoots. They're working with you as you're producing the spot, as you're writing the spot.
Yeah.
So it's like that one extra, because we're strategic, but we have all these other things that we're doing as well.
Exactly.
That is their single focus, and I think it's made it even more so cohesive, and it's more beneficial to our clients.
Well, and like you said, strategy's ever evolving, right? And so to keep up with that evolution of your strategy, because a brand who's just launching, their strategy today is going to be different from what it is in 3 years once they grow that brand. And so sometimes the creative gets lost in that. And so if it's just a creative-only agency, well, we've been doing creative for this brand for 5 years. I know what works, and we're going to do it the same every year. Having that strategy and those strategy experts who are solely focused on that and the evolution of that strategy, sometimes they might have to knock us down on a creative side and be like, well, that's what we were doing 2 years ago, but now we're evolving. We're going more towards what I like to call like a brand response.
Or the category has gotten more crowded, so we have to take that into consideration. So the other factors. And not that, one thing I got to give really all the teams props at Bluewater is everybody does research. I'll come into your office and you're doing research for, Medicare or something. So we all do our own research, and it's to inform, it's a very important part of planning. But this is getting that extra, kind of over top.
Exactly.
And sticking with it.
Right.
So
it's kind of
exciting.
To your point, like whenever I start a project, the first thing I do is try to immerse myself in that brand. Mm-hmm. Like I take it from the standpoint, like I'm now part of that brand, right? So I want to understand everything about it. And so I'll spend the first week just totally immersing myself, trying to learn everything I can about the brand.
Even if it's tampons.
Yeah, even if it's tampons, right? Yeah, like whatever your brand is, I'm in it. And so I think that's important for.
And we do diaper
creative
clients as well. So you should have seen him that week.
Trying them on was the toughest part. But so no matter what it is, like I want to make sure I know as much about it as the brand experts, or that's my goal.
Sure.
And so having the strategy guys there too to the brand, but do you know where they're heading? And so that's always good to give that push and make sure that you understand where it's at.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I think it's like I said, it's been a significant benefit to our clients and to us internally. Keeping it tied together. And
one thing I love about Bluewater is I feel like there's somebody there that knows the answer. Right, like there's so many things I don't know. Right, like I can write and I can create and I can produce, but there's so many things that
somebody's an expert at, right?
On the analytical side or the media side, or even the post team. And so if I have questions, I know there's someone in there that can answer that question for me and guide me in the right direction, so that we know,
is a great thing
once
about
once it gets on air, we know that all those T's have been crossed, the I's have been dotted, and we're not going to be surprised at final delivery.
It is an amazing thing about Bluewater, and it really, really, really makes us unique in the direct marketing world, because who's out there that has literally every digital content, television, media, creative, web dev, any challenge that any marketer brings to us.
Correct.
We can sit down and that's what we do. We take clients' challenges, solve them, and build the business, grow the business.
And everything's in-house.
Yep.
How many times do you see a marketer hire a producer to create a spot, and they've hired a producer, and now the producer is hiring the DPs, the grips, hiring maybe a separate scriptwriter or creative, and then they're hiring a post team. And then once it's all done, they're just shipping it off to the Dub House, and then it's some other media team's job to purchase the media and do all that. And so
which is
having
crazy.
all that right there together, it's such a benefit because we can act quickly. You know, we're very nimble.
Right, these teams have worked for you every day. They're not freelancers,
we
right?
know,
so that
exactly.
you guys can move.
They know how I talk.
Yeah.
I know how they talk. You know, and so there's never a lack of communication. And it's just, we know what we're going to get.
Sure.
Right? We know what we're going to get, and so then the client knows what they're going to get as well.
Right, and how, I mean, with the 38,000 square foot facility and all of those different sets we have, and all, I mean, what do you guys always say? It's a producer's toy box.
Oh, yeah.
Toy box, really.
Yeah.
Because everything's there.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like if you want a production, we've got to, you know, find a location. Now, that doesn't mean we won't go on location, and we do frequently, but we don't always have to. We can create anything in the studio.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, especially with the addition of the LED wall,
Which is so cool.
Yeah, if you want to
shoot,
you want to shoot in New York City in Clearwater, Florida, we can do that. Right?
That's so crazy.
And it's controllable. You know, that's the benefit of having this space and having all these tools. Is it's totally controllable. We're not going to lose a shoot due to weather.
Right.
We're not going to be out in the heat sweating. You know, we can control that. We're not going to have to worry about a cloudy day ruining our lighting. You know, we can make whatever we want there. Yeah, and so.
And I got to say, our set designers and our crew, I'm always fascinated that I'll walk into the, you know, Studio A, which is massive.
Yeah.
And one day there won't be anything in there. You know, 2 days later, it looks like somebody's living room with stairs coming up and a dining room over here. I'm like, how did they do that so quickly?
Oh yeah,
it's fascinating.
I'm never not amazed by what they
can achieve.
It's wild to me because I'm not that type of person. You know, I'm a creative and I can put the words together.
Not good with a hammer and a nail.
I'm not good with finishing.
Okay.
Yeah, I can build it. I just can't make it look nice. But I can visualize it, right? And I can get this visualization in my mind. And so I know I'll go to our art team and I'll come up with this, hey, this is our creative, right? This is the script. This is how I envision this happening.
Yeah.
And our art team will then draw these schematics and these renderings. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. This is like how'd you get in my brain to do this? And then they'll pass that on to the set team, and it's like, wow, this looks just like the rendering. It's amazing going from point A to point D or whatever it is to get
Sometimes
there.
I feel that way with when I see a script or when we were doing a pillow type script, you and I back and forth, I was in the car, just being able to sit with the editors and seeing it come to life, because I'm a strategy person.
Yeah.
So to see those things come to life visually to me are always very fascinating.
Yeah, and that's why I always love being on set, right? I love to write, I love to ideate and create things, but there's just something magical about being on set when you see all these ideas come to real life, and then even in the final product, I love seeing that all come together, and it's like, wow, from where this started, a month ago or whatever, to seeing that final product it's a little humbling, actually, to think that there's people out there that can make this come to life, and that they're all here working with us, and I get to be a part of that. It's really awesome.
I think that's one of the things that drew me to this. Why I started, at 20 years old, 19 years old in this industry and never left, because the gratification, being a direct marketer and seeing the results, seeing the response, actually knowing that the things that you've done and created are making the program better. They're building it, they're growing it.
Exactly.
That's like these hands, they have power.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that gratification is really what drives us.
Immediate gratification.
Yeah.
It's thrilling. It's
Well, and it's really challenging too in a direct response marketing.
Yeah.
Because and I tell people frequently that direct response is hard. It's harder than other production, because in a lot of production, all you got to do is come up with a good creative, right? You come up with a creative that's engaging and it's pretty, and
it's just pretty.
It.
They're my favorite. When somebody comes to me with a pretty commercial, and I'm like,
okay, but
so pretty.
Yeah. And
Josh,
so,
help me.
Yeah, and so that's why it's so challenging, but also rewarding being in direct response because there's a measurement, and you're going to know it. Yeah, and so you know if this is a winning creative or if it's not. As to where some of the brand type stuff, there isn't that metrics, right?
Right.
And so having that immediate response mechanism to know, like I said, it's really rewarding. It can cut you down too, but that, for me, like I said, with that competitive spirit, that's a driver, right? And it's like, okay, we may not have won first try, but we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that we make the adjustments to make this work.
And there are elements to creatives that, you could probably break it down into 12, and that's why we're actually, and this should probably launch soon, we've developed a database of different parts of each creative. So what's, for each category. So this is, insurance or Medicare or whatever it is, or life insurance or senior life. And, the different things like this type of host works better, this type of just with testimonials, without testimonials. So all breaking down with spokesperson or celebrity talent, saying the phone number 3 times, having having a QR response mechanism, not having it. So breaking those things down for each creative, right? And then categorizing, you have it in there. So, 6 months from now, you're going to be able to go into it and pull, Medicare or AEP program, and up's going to pop indexing of the best points of it. And being able to, we'll know, but helping train the staff coming up, helping clients understand the impact of these different elements and how it's going to improve their response and improve their business.
Well, and
because numbers, you can't. No. Numbers are it.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, you can't argue with the numbers.
Yeah, and recently the analytics team showed me a preview of this machine that they've got. I don't know what you call it, but and I was just blown away at all the data they had and the way they could filter things out, and we could get so specific on what was driving response, and like,
the Sigma
and
reporting.
it's almost like a cheat code for writing these creatives and these scripts, because if you have that data, you can write directly to it, and it's like, wow, like we're ages ahead.
Sure. Because I know a lot of your job is coming up with the catchy creative hook, but there's so many elements that are also so critical to driving that response, and it can differ by category, it can differ by demographic. So having all of that catalog, so the next time you're like, I'm doing a senior term, or a senior whole life, you can go and pull it up.
Right. And that's, like you talk about creative, it can't just be entertaining, right? Like that's one of the things about direct response. It can't just be entertaining. That's part of
just
it, right?
Setup,
we got to entertain because we got to get their attention. We got to hold their attention, but it also has to drive, right? It has to drive response. It has to be informative, right? And so we have to entertain, educate, and drive. Right?
What's in it for the consumer?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Need or greed is what drives response. That's what I always say. They need it, or it's need or greed. And I like to. This is somebody, an old producer who's probably dead now, taught me this trick a long time ago, that when somebody gives you a creative, watch it without the sound.
Yeah.
And then listen to it without the video. And if you can't understand it and it's not driving you weren't driven to do what it's intending you to do, then you got a problem.
Yeah, we got work to do.
Yeah,
right?
It's missing something.
Yeah.
And I think those are good words to live by there.
Yeah, exactly. And you're talking about creative. Medicare can be a little bit overwhelming for seniors, right? And so sometimes you'll see creatives get a little bit too creative, right? And a little bit over the top. And so, it's disruptive, but
like too alarming.
Yeah, but is the audience getting lost, right?
Yeah.
Because they're already overwhelmed with the subject, right?
They are.
I mean, Medicare law is so monotonous and it's so overwhelming in itself that there's confusion, right? And so now if a spot comes on and maybe it's creative and it engages them and they're watching, but it's overwhelming as well, they're not going to respond, right? They're already confused. You have to kind of, sometimes simple is better, and so we've seen that a few times, right? And I think that's also where it's important to go out with multiple creatives.
Yeah.
Right? We can't just come out with one lifestyle creative that it's disruptive. I've got ceiling falling from the ground or whatever, and that's it, right? You have to support those creatives, and like we always recommend doing a mix, right? Let's do a couple lifestyle creatives, let's do a couple host creatives, and let's do a graphics creatives. And if you're running these together, they're going to support each other, and it's kind of that rule of three where they got to hear it 3 times, to make the call.
You know, it's funny. Like way back in the day, one of the creatives that would work the best, no one does anymore. That was the crawl, where the words would crawl on the screen.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes me old, but I mean.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Star Wars creative in a long time with the scroll. But
I worked on, at least 20 different states for Blue Cross Blue Shield, Florida included. Yeah. And we always had a crawl, and we always had a graphic, and we always had we used to call them talking heads.
Yeah.
But I guess now we call it direct appeal.
Yeah,
we call it talking
host
heads.
Creatives. Yeah,
talking head.
Yeah, and
those are those tried and true. You got to have that in the mix.
And they're still very effective and efficient.
They are, but the category now that Medicare has become, especially for advertising, Medicare, AEP, OEP, whatever SEP is going to be now.
Yeah.
It's so crowded that doesn't stand out anymore, and that's kind of where you are. The category is just bananas, crazy, nuts.
Right, exactly. You have to have something right out of the gate.
Yeah, because seniors are absolutely inundated.
It's going to make them listen.
What I'd really love is, and I always say this to people, is let me take a look at your stuff. Yeah. Let us audit it.
Right.
Let it come down and visit our 38,000 square foot facility. Yeah. Talk to our clients that we've had significant success for. Come see the magic. Let us pull your results in. Let us do an analysis and provide you with a strategy of how we would take your business. Well, and we can do the same thing on your creatives.
Right. And how many times recently have we had clients come to us and say, hey, we've got a creative that's on TV right now and it's not working.
Right.
And you'll bring it to us. We'll get together. We'll do what we call 360, and we'll surround this creative. We'll see what's working and what's not, and then we'll make suggestions to make it better. And what's wild is sometimes that involves us doing some more shooting.
Yeah.
But I can think of several times recently where we didn't even have to reshoot the spot. We just got masters, and we were able to rearrange the spot and change some things around a little bit and create a successful campaign, along with what the media team was doing with your marketing and
that's
an
ideal situation too, where they allow us to do a complete 360, because many times they're like, well, this isn't working. Okay, well, if you think of the marketing mix as a pie, and creative is 20% of it, and offers 20% of it, and the media is 30% of it, and the website customer journey is this much percent, and the call center is a certain percentage of it. All of those things have to be done properly and be completely optimized to drive that campaign. So just being like, oh, the creative doesn't work, or oh, the media doesn't work. No. We have to look at the whole thing. Like, gee, the phone's ringing. That means the creative's working.
Yeah.
The media's making the phone ring. If you're not getting,
closing
the leads to policy, then something else is broken.
Yeah.
So that 360 thing that we do and bringing all teams together, that is like magic.
Yeah, because one missing link can make winning losing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You could have a total winning program on your hand and think it doesn't work, and you could be throwing it out and starting over. When yes, it does work, you just missed this one piece.
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, you have to find the seniors or whatever your market is. You have to meet them where they are with the right message and on the right platform. And that's why it's so important to have that converged agency, because we can get the right message. You can get them where they're at. And then, we've got digital teams, we've got linear TV to get it on the right platform.
You said it best. We immerse ourselves in our customers' business from all angles. And even if not, not every client comes to us and uses our creative and our media and our digital and our web. Some people come to us just for creative.
Yeah.
Other folks come to us just for media or digital or, a combination of two things. Yeah. We still look at everything. Yeah. Just because we didn't develop your website or we didn't shoot your creative doesn't mean we're not 360 looking at everything and saying, hey, we would do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And if you come to Gina, she'll probably give you free creative.
Which I feel maybe pisses Josh off sometimes. but that
We're just here to make winning creatives.
Because sometimes the creative is so important, and we know that what we're doing and our strategy and our media is so good and so strong.
Right.
We believe in it that much that I'm going to give you the damn creative.
Right. We've got that track record to believe in each other.
We do. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
so much to Josh's dismay, I may give away the creative. It's fantastic. We would love to talk to anyone and everybody here.
Yeah.
So you can reach out to us. Bluewater.tv is our website. We're both, I'm Gina, Gina, at Bluewater.tv.
And I'm Josh at Bluewater.tv. We'd love for you to reach out, even if you just got questions about current creative that you have and just like us to take a look at it. We'd love to help you out.
Yep, awesome.